front of you, you have leaders of the EAC, that is the Eastern African Community, that have gathered, and also some of the leaders from the SADC. They have gathered in Dar es Salaam to talk about the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo based on recent conflict that has left more than 10,000 people dead. We have to say right away that the M23, which I consider to be Kagame's militia group in the DRC, doing his dirty work for him, they are responsible for the people that have died in Goma. Let's get that right straight away. But what was the purpose of this meeting? So the meeting was basically, as I said, to try and find a solution in terms of the escalating conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. So you have the SADC and you have the Eastern African Community. And the results, obviously, before I comment, just want to get out what the conclusion of the meeting was, so we can move forward and I can give you my thoughts. So leaders from both regional blocs emphasized the necessity of direct negotiations with all involved parties, including the M23 rebel, to achieve a sustainable solution. So after all this meeting that you see all these leaders going around and chatting and so they have come out and they've said, okay, look, we want to see this conflict come to an end. But the way that this conflict will come to an end is by bringing all the parties concerned so that they can sit around the table and talk. And this includes the M23 rebels. But the key thing I want my viewers to continue to understand is this. The M23 is a rebel group, and this rebel group is the main problem in the DRC at the moment. But where is this M23 from? And as you will know from all my previous videos, the M23 group is an offshoot of one of the parties, CNDP. In 2009, they signed an agreement with the then government of Joseph Kabila, and it was on the 23rd of March. That's why they named it M23. So March 23. So this group here has been, if you like, the main arm of Kagame in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, before I even continue, you look at the man who has basically orchestrated the killing of 10,000 people in the DRC, in the Democratic of Congo, but you look at the man who is arriving at this meeting or summit like a hero, like somebody who has accomplished a great feat, and everybody is waiting to congratulate him and to say thank you, Mr. Kagame, for killing all these people in the DRC, including his own soldiers that have died by the thousands. I believe the Guardian in the United Kingdom talked about more than 2,000 of his own soldiers that have died in this conflict in Goma. But yet he comes as the last man to walk into this meeting, and everybody's standing and waiting for this hero who has accomplished such a great feat in the DRC. They welcome him, and he's there as if we were expecting you to come and congratulate you. And that's a shame for all these leaders. And you can see Muzeveni, they're his mentor. Muzeveni is Kagame's mentor, and he taught him all the war, basically, the art of war. This he's learned. Obviously, he was trained in the US, but look at all these leaders. They are just really submitting, and the decor really tells you that, Kagame is the hero here, and this is the prime minister from the DRC. You can look at from her face that she's not happy. Of course, who can be happy when they have butchered and killed more than 10,000 of your people? It doesn't work that way. But yeah, they reserved a seat from him, sit next to his mentor, so they can basically discuss what the situation in the DRC is, and it's terrible. But I can tell you right now, But all these leaders that I've said, not all of them, the majority of them from the EAC, that is the Eastern African Community, most of them have a stake in what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Muzeveni here, he's got his own soldiers in the DRC. Kenya has his own interests in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And many other leaders here, they're all seeing that there is something that they can actually gain in the DRC. And I know, politics or, it's all about, what we can get out of any situation. I mean, it's some people just consider it a business and it is a game. But right here, when all this conflict, let me just say this. Since 1997, when this conflict started, over 11 or 12 million people have already died in the eastern part of Congo, and this is no joke. But for some people, these 12 million people that have died since 1997, it's just insects. These are just flies. These are just basically the people that we're meant to sacrifice so we can get what we want to. And it's a sad situation. So here you see all these leaders here, they've gathered here. And what have they said? Essentially, they have decided that, okay, for this for a sustainable solution to come about, we will need to have all parties involved, including the M23 rebel group, on the table of negotiation, so that the Kinshasa or Felix Tshisekedi and his government will negotiate with the M23 so they can actually give them what it is that they are looking for. But what? So I'm asking myself, who's representing the M23 here? But just let me tell you that it is Kagame, because he is the if you like, the architect of this M23 rebel group. So they have decided that in order for us to find peace, this is President Felix Tshisekedi, who couldn't be there. He said he won't be there. And so he was doing this via a video conference, a conference call there. So what have they said essentially? They advocated for a dialogue over a military intervention and called for an immediate ceasefire. Additionally, the summit urged the withdrawal of foreign forces from the DRC and the reopening of GOMA's airports to facilitate humanitarian aid. The leaders also recommended that the EAC and the SADC Chief of Defense Forces convene within 5 days to provide technical guidance on enforcing the ceasefire and ensuring the security of the critical areas. When I listened to this and read of the outcome of this meeting, let me just say straight away, I knew that it was going to be a failure. Nothing good is going to come out of this meeting, because there were meetings that have taken place prior to this, and they have agreed on a number of things that both parties were supposed to actually act upon. But we know that Kagame and his militia group have decided to sabotage, not to accept, not to follow the guidelines that were laid down. So they decided to continue to invade the territory in DRC and kill people and loot and basically occupy space in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So President Felix has repeatedly said that he will not negotiate with the M23 rebel group because they are considered as terrorists. Who would want to negotiate with terrorists? It is absurd to think that this African leader, because it is Felix Tshisekedi, then we have to force his hand so he can do this. So basically, all that is happening right now in Goma is the way that the EU, is the way that the international communities, it's the way that all these multinational companies, they have put their finances, they have put their money, they have put their heads together. They said, we have to force Felix Tshisekedi to negotiate with the rebel group. What are they demanding? So they are basically saying this, that Kagame via the M23 is asking for the things that I talked about in the previous videos. There was an agreement that took place on March 23rd 3, 2009. This Kagame here is the main architect of that agreement, and he wants to enforce it. And the way he's trying to enforce that is by obviously doing what he's done in Goma. Now, they go and they occupied, they killed, and they've done all of that to force Felix Tshisekedi to sit on the table. And Felix Tshisekedi said he will not do it. He is not going to sit down and talk with the M23 group. Now, obviously, I don't know whether he will stand by his word or he will receive pressure, as he has been receiving pressures from the US, from the EU, to basically force him to do that. And this is the sad reality. You see a president, you think that he has, of course he's got powers, he's got the mandate from the people to rule, but as you know, that these world leaders would not leave you alone. So the eastern part of Congo, being rich in minerals and all of that, everybody wants to take a stake of it. The US, France, Belgium, UK, the EU, they all want to take, but Tshisekedi said to them, if you want the minerals here, let's do a win-win deal. But that is not what they want. Kagame, knowing that if this deal is done directly with the government, with the Congolese government, he is basically going to be cut out of the deal, and he's not going to be able to fund much of the project and the plans that they have for Rwanda. So what he wants is to have his hands on the DRC minerals. He wants to have some of the sovereignty in Goma or Eastern Congo given to him. He wants to put his generals in the army in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He wants basically to have influence over what is happening there. And so they will always bring up this issue of the Banyamulenge, saying that, okay, well, first of all, it was the FDLR. FDLR, supposedly, they were the people that committed crime or the genocide back then, and they have fled into Congo. This is about 30 years ago. So those rebels that fled into Congo, they're still very young, very active. They've got armament. They are so armed that they're going to cause a problem to his regime. And I have never seen any person up to this point who has been caught, because that's what they've been doing. But Kagame, for the last 30 years, he's been searching and looking for all these militia group called the FDLR. They haven't found them. Now the situation is the Banyamulenge are not well treated. Well, who are the Banyamulenge? They are Congolese. President Tshisekedi, in a meeting in London in 2020, he said Banyamulenge are Congolese. Therefore, whatever is happening in the DRC, it is the problem of the Congolese government to settle any dispute or any problem. Why is Kagame meddling in the things or the matters that is purely Congolese? This is something, or an answer that can come from you viewers. You can maybe explain to me why Kagame is trying to meddle in this situation. It is very, very bad just to know and understand that a neighboring country is actually trying to meddle in the internal affair of another nation. Now, if Kagame is saying we have the Tutsi in Congo. But yeah, this is the case. In the DRC, you have other tribes that you can find them in Zimbabwe. They are also in the DRC. In Congo, Brazzaville, there are also people from the DRC in Congo, Brazzaville, and from Congo, Brazzaville, they are also in the DRC. Quite a few neighboring countries. This is not an isolated situation with Rwanda. But why is it the case that all these other countries, it seems to be fine? They've never actually had any problem at all. But why is it always Kagame that is always trying to intervene, because so-called Mulenges or Banyamulenges are ill-treated? This, for me, is just a pretext that Kagame uses in order to get involved in the Democratic Republic of Congo's internal affairs. But the aim really is to have a bit of the sovereignty over that eastern part of Congo given to him. But this he was doing when Kabila Joseph was in power. Obviously, there are still doubts surrounding Kabila's nationality. It is the making of Kagame. Anyway, we all know that Kagame put him in power, so therefore he can have a free hand. After killing, obviously, Laurent Desire Kabila, he placed Kabila, supposedly his son or adopted son, we don't know, but he was in power there for 18 years, and he opens the door to Kagame, and he would come in and go out as much as he wanted to. His generals would will do the same. The illicit trade of minerals from that eastern part of the Congo, this is something that has been going on for the last 20 years and more. Now that Felix Tshisekedi came into power, he said, no, it cannot carry on. We have to sit down and revisit everything that you have been doing in the past so we can come to an agreement and we can have a win-win situation here. This upset Kagame, this upset the people that are backing. But here I have to say this, it's not only Kagame here. Kagame is basically the front man for the international community. He's the front man for the EU. He's the front man for the US. He's the front man for the UK. He's the front man for France. He's the front man for Canada. All these countries come behind Kagame, and he has recently signed a contract or an agreement with the EU so that they can basically be buying strategic minerals from Rwanda. They don't have these strategic minerals. Where are they going to get them from? In a way, the EU is saying, we will support you to invade Congo, to kill in Congo, to butcher there, so you can take us what we want. You know, this is a sad reality, what is happening here. We've had situation in the past with King Leopold, who actually did kill a lot of people because he wanted rubber. This case is no rubber anymore, but it's all the minerals that we have for making all this laptop and telephones, mobile, and now we're talking about electric cars. These materials that they're looking for, or raw material they're looking for, is going to come from the DRC. And so Kagame is well positioned, since we cannot go there because they will recognize, the world will know that it is us doing this. So therefore, let's use Kagame and let's back him up. Let's give him the intelligence that he needs. Let's give him the support that he needs, whether it is militarily, whether it is financial, whether it is by way of equipment. So they have basically put the whole apparatus in motion in order to support Kagame. And this is why the man feels so strong and is feel like, he's on top of the world and nobody can do anything to him. This is because of what is happening in terms of the EU and the backing that he's receiving. And the same countries that are backing Kagame, they are telling Felix Tshisekedi that you must just submit to him, listen to what the rebel group are looking for, give them what they want, and we will consider that, and enforce that peace will come back to the DRC. It's a terrible situation, and they don't want Felix Tshisekedi to come into a military agreement with China or Russia. So they have put pressure on him. They've mounted pressure on him. The US, the EU, Canada, the UK, all these people said to Felix Tshisekedi, if he enters into an agreement, a military agreement with China or Russia, they will bring him down. They have put so much pressure on him. And I can tell you, this situation here, I don't know how it's going to be resolved. But as far as the DRC is concerned, this matter will only come to an end if and only if the international community places sanction on Rwanda based on what they have already done. This cannot go on unpunished. Why is everybody condemning Rwanda in words only? In words only, but they are not punishing, they are not placing sanctions. Look what they've done to Russia. How many sanctions has Russia received? But now, in terms of Kagame, no, nothing. You can go into Congo, kill and do what you do, we will not sanction you. And France is such a terrible country. Well, when I say France, I'm talking about the leadership of France at the moment, because they are the one backing Kagame with intelligence. They've been kicked out of other African nations, so they're thinking now this is our way now to basically have a kickback. So we're going to go and reinforce the situation in the DRC. They are backing Kagame. They're giving him all the intelligence. They're supporting him militarily, logistically, in every way possible so that he can actually inflict and subdue the Democratic Republic of Congo. But as I always say, whether or not leaders from the African leaders will not learn this, that when the Western powers come, it's not there because they care or do they love you. No, they're coming there. They will use Kagame. One day they'll discard him. And this is what they did with Mobutu. This is what they'll do with any president. I'm not saying when Russia will come or China come, they will come because they love the Congolese. No, it's all based in interest. And this is what I'm saying, that Congo needs to go and look for where they can actually, where is the interest interest of the Congolese people. And this is what President Felix needs to do. Right now, he must make a decision. They must go into war. If war, then let's go into war. Let's decide once and for all, because I cannot see a way forward. If he negotiates with the M23 group, it means that he has submitted himself to Kagame's bidding, and the Congolese people will be enslaved for many, many years to come. And this cannot happen. The South Africans know this, and many people in Africa, they know that the view of the expanding empire of Kagame, if they let him do it, he will do it. He must be stopped right now. I will talk more on the next video. Please comment, let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe and share it. And I look forward to the next video. Take care. Bye-bye now. Good morning, DRC TV. In front of you, you have leaders of the EAC, that is the Eastern African Community, that have gathered, and also some of the leaders from the SADC. They have gathered in Dar es Salaam to talk about the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo based on recent conflict that has left more than 10,000 people dead. We have to say right away that the M23, which I consider to be Kagame's militia group in the DRC, doing his dirty work for him, they are responsible for the people that have died in Goma. Let's get that right straight away. But what was the purpose of this meeting? So the meeting was basically, as I said, to try and find a solution